We are up.
And welcome to a new edition of the Mohoning Movement Show. Today we got a special guest, Brooke Babovnik. And I was
Hi.
practicing too, I'm sorry. Brooke Babovnik.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, my fellow classmate in the Applied History program at Youngstown State University. And Brooke does a lot of great work at the Steel Museum, including the new nurses exhibit.
Yeah. So I started working on this December of 2020. So as Jacob said, I'm a graduate assistant intern at the Steel Museum. And the intern before me, she started working on this, but graduated in December. So when she left the program, it was unfinished. So I said I'd take over and work on it. And the original opening ceremony date was scheduled in May, but then it was pushed back because of COVID. And then again in September. So luckily, we were finally able to have a ceremony for this last Thursday. We had a great turnout.
Nice.
Yeah, about 75 people came.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I had to go up to Cleveland for something, but yeah, the pictures looked great, and looking at the exhibit, helping actually hang the panels beforehand, everything looked awesome.
Yeah, it was really nice. A lot of the nurses from the union came out too, so they're really nice.
So how did the whole thing start? Someone donated a large collection of the old archives for the nurses union?
Yeah, so in 2019, the Youngstown General Duty Nurses Association, they disbanded in 2019. The hospital closed in 2018. So they wanted to keep pretty much their history in Youngstown. So they donated all of their items to the Steel Museum to be archived. So since 2019, interns before me specifically have been doing a lot of work cataloging and organizing the material to be then stored in the archive room at the museum. So they were also going to create an exhibit in the lobby. We were given about $50,000 from them to create an exhibit. Yeah. So
does Sainese have a different nurses union then?
I personally don't know. The YGDNA union, they represent nurses at North Side, South Side, and then eventually the Todd Babies and Children's Hospital. So I'm pretty sure they're separate from Sainese.
And my mom was a blood bank technologist at Northside Hospital. And I guess you have in the exhibit about, 1970 something, there was a big strike, and that one actually had both unions on strike at the same time.
Okay, yeah, the 74 strike?
I think that's what it was, yeah.
Okay,
so
yeah.
Everything was shut down because both unions went out on strike.
Wow.
And I guess from talking to my mom, I guess that's one of the things that kind of hurt worker solidarity is having the two separate unions, that it was staggered for when the contract came up. So they didn't have it like it was in 74 when everybody was out on strike.
Okay, yeah. So the union was formed in 1966, and it was the first nurses union in Ohio and then the second in the nation.
Oh.
So yeah, that's really cool. They weren't really being treated properly. The union formed as a way to make sure that the nurses who worked at, North Side, South Side, and then later Todd Babies were treated fairly, given, fair wages. The first strike was over wages. So 71% of the nurse staff at the time was part-time. Full-time nurses were given a 10-cent pay raise, while the part-time nurses were only 5-cent pay raise. So the 1966 strike, it's pretty much termed the most expensive nickel in hospital history.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Which is because it cost the hospital so much being shut down from it all, or?
Well, they weren't shut down. A lot of the nurses, they resigned and then they went on strike. The hospital administration didn't want to speak to the union. So that's why the strike kind of dragged out.
They didn't want to even recognize the union.
No, they didn't. it wasn't until mid-December of 66 that they were finally given an agreement. And I forget what the agreement entailed overall, but their wages were increased. So, and then you had the next strike in 74. That was also over wages, and then the code of ethics of nurses. And then the next strike was 2001. And that was an 81-day strike. When I talked to one of the nurses last week at the opening ceremony, she said that they only planned for it to be like a couple days long. And then I think day 3 in or something, they were locked out. So they just continued to strike. And, you know, they received support from the community. A lot of unions in the area supported them too on the picket line, like local Teamsters. They are striking with them as well. And I think that's, you know, really nice to be supported by the community when, you know, you're giving back to the community by treating patients and making sure that, you know, they're
solidarity.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's great overall about doing this exhibit is that, you know, it's called the Steel Museum colloquially, you know, really it's the Youngstown Historical Center for Industry and Labor. And I think it's cool to, you know, broaden the perspective of labor to, you know, beyond the steel mill. So I think it's cool that y'all are breaking ground with that and expanding how we conceive of labor in the steel museum.
Yeah, for sure. And I've never even heard of this union before. So even when like researching this, you try to Google, you know, Youngstown General Duty Nurses Association, nothing comes up. Now with our stuff being up on our website and OHC publishing some articles that my supervisor has written, you can find a lot more information about them now. So it's more accessible to other people.
Yeah. So after the 2001 strike, a couple years after that, then the hospital got sold to like people from Tennessee or something, right?
I believe so. They've had various owners of the hospital.
And people absconded with money at one point too, I think. Like, I think it's both, you know, that drives me crazy about hospitals. You know, they're nonprofit, a lot of them, but really it's, you know, you get people on the boards that are making millions of dollars literally. And I guess they stole a bunch of money from the hospital too at some point. At least I think that's what I heard. But yeah, the hospital got sold a couple times and finally to this like Tennessee company that just took the money. Same thing that happened to steel mills too, you know, like Likes, you know, an international corporation bought it, stole all the money that were in the coffers, and now you have an empty building. Now Northside Hospital is still sitting empty. Southside Hospital, you know, was a big kind of local scandal with Oak Hill with the county getting it, which is for the sake of the building. I'm ultimately glad the county got it, but they're not fully using it to capacity. I don't know what the plan is. I think open it to veterans housing, you know, homeless housing, immigrant families, you know, like we have these large structures with a bunch of rooms that are just sitting vacant. Yeah. And I was born at Northside Hospital.
So, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's a shame what happened. I think that definitely hurt the area a lot, you know, because you can't, I'm not sure what other hospitals are around. I know St. E's just up the street.
It's the only game in town now, really. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, in addition to the nurses stuff, we have a class together as well, Dr. Leary's architecture class with Dr. Leary and Chris Klingmeyer, which has been a really interesting project.
It has, yeah.
So it's kind of, you know, the whole concept of this show is the whole Mohoning Movement project I'm working on for my master's project of doing active transportation with historical trails. So that class has kind of influenced thinking about that project for me too. I think it's really interesting that all the stagecoach houses that you have the transport before the canals, even the transportation network were stagecoaches, that stagecoach lines. So I think Chris's house was on the stagecoach line, and a couple other, you know, historic houses up there in the early early 1800s. Yeah, I think Chris Klingmeyer, our instructor, along with Dr. Leary, with it. I think if it's like after 1870, he won't even look at the house. I get that sense from him. You know, it's all about like the early 1800 stuff. We went to We were in Pennsylvania yesterday.
Yep.
In Harmony, Pennsylvania, which is really cool. Kind of a cult town. Did you ever hear of Zor in Ohio?
No.
So Zor in Ohio is right along the Ohio Erie Canalway, and it was a commune in like the early 1800s. And so Harmony, Pennsylvania, it was also another commune. Like people think all these communes are just in the 60s or something, but really it's like 1800s. You had a lot of weird communes around. So yeah, Harmony, Pennsylvania, they have a lot of historic architecture out there. So we went and looked at that. I think next week we're going to be in Champion. The week before we were in Warren, which looks like Trumbull Historical Society is doing good work up there, and along with the Kinsman House, like pretty cool old homes. And we've lost so much here in Youngstown, historic architecture.
Yeah.
And continue to, and that's something that I try to advocate for. But Warren seems to have done a better job preserving their old stuff.
Yeah.
I think you have the row of houses near downtown. I think that got preserved because like the industry was like to the south of town, and so nothing got developed over those houses. Where in Youngstown, the only row of old Millionaires Row is up on Fifth Avenue.
Yeah. I just drove past that yesterday.
There's some gorgeous homes up there,
Yeah.
but they're a lot newer. I think. I mean, they're all like 1900s houses,
Yeah.
Whereas in Warren, those are some 1800s houses.
I think the topic for our class is like 1800 to 1860 or 1870. So I think, I think that's what they want us to focus on. But I think it'd be cool too to just for fun look at houses that are after that period as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I'm kind of more into 20th century architecture, but it's learning a lot about just obviously I'm kind of both worlds with having the academic track, but also having the building downtown too, which was built in 1909. So I'm hoping to have Chris look at that someday too, and see he'll look down upon it because it's 1900s, not 1800s. But I'm sure he has some insight.
Does the Historical Society do a good job of like publishing out those historical buildings and kind of giving the history around?
Yeah, well, so here in Youngstown or Mohoning Valley, we have Mohoning Valley Historical Society, which does a great job, and they preserve the Arms Mansion. I think that was 1908 or so that it was built.
Yeah, 1905 I think it was built, and then 1908 they started like fixing up some of the interior.
You interned there too, didn't you? Yeah. So,
over the summer.
You can tell us about that.
Well, I spent most of my time up in the attic.
At the Arms Museum?
Yeah.
Oh.
So
I seen the second floor. I didn't know about the attic.
Yeah, the attic is huge. There's like 4 ginormous closets.
Cool.
Yeah.
They got stuff up there? Or?
They have a bunch of stuff up there. My job over the summer was to catalog most of that. They're planning on building a new storage facility. So they want to move all the bigger objects to that storage area. So before they move anything, they have to see what's still up in the attic and see if it's like labeled and if it's been like cataloged yet. So that was my job. I came across a bunch of interesting stuff though, and I've heard that's been haunted too. So
oh yeah.
Yeah.
And did you do any work at the Tyler to them?
I did not.
So yeah, Mohoning Valley Historical Society has like the 2 main locations, the Arms Museum up on Wick, and then they just got the Tyler building within the past 10 years and redid that, which was a Good Humor place. It's where a Good Humor ice cream bar started. Then I remember back in the day, like early 2000s downtown, it was still Ross Radio and like cool like electronic stuff, like old like tubes and all that. And rumor is, and they were talking about this when we were doing our project about Road of Shalom, but rumor is that there was like some gun running for Israel going on down there too.
Whoa.
Like, yeah, like wild stuff. And like, I'm not sure exactly what, I think early on in like the Zionist movement or something, but like something about running guns or something to there. So yeah, I don't know if
crazy.
Look more into that. Yeah. But yeah,
So,
rich history.
I'm doing a ghost hunt this Friday in the Poland fire station. Do you think you can hook me up with a ghost hunt up there?
Yeah.
You would?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll contact my supervisor.
Okay, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Bill Lawson, the director of the Historical Society, he also leads an Oak Hill
Yeah.
tour, and I think that's already sold out. I also do one on the pedicab too, if anybody wants to take that.
Nice.
But Bill Lawson is a better tour guide than me.
How do they do like a candlelight tour or?
I think it's mainly during the day.
Okay,
yeah.
that'd be so cool for that night.
Yeah, that would be. I do my pedicab one at night.
Okay.
But I only do 2 at a time on the pedicab.
Okay.
But Bill is better with the history of it all.
Yeah.
And obviously, he's the director of the Historical Society, but he's a great wealth of knowledge and resource for the community. Actually, with Dr. Leary's other applied history class, we got a tour of the MVHS in the Arms Museum. But yeah, Bill Lawson didn't show us the attic. So I want to see that.
That's where it's at, right?
Yeah.
That's where all the action's at.
And
Yeah.
the spirits. So what's happening in Poland?
So we did in September. We did the Mansfield Reformatory.
Oh, I went there years ago. Yeah, it's
Ooh,
pretty cool.
That's an awesome place to visit. And then after we did that, the Poland firefighters contacted and says, "Hey, our building is really haunted. If you guys want to do another one, come over to Poland." I had no idea that it was a haunted structure here. So that's in October. That's this Friday. So.
Oh, cool.
That's amazing.
Wow. Yeah, we went to Poland in the architecture class too. That's an old place. The Old Stone Inn, is that what they called it in downtown Poland?
Yeah, Old Stone Tavern.
Yeah, Old Stone Tavern.
Something like that.
Which we talked before about. One of my favorite restaurants in the area is Salem, and they originally started there before they got their bank building in downtown Struthers. They had like an upper room there when Brian Palumbo was first starting that out. So that's a cool building, 1806 or something.
I believe so.
Something like that. But yeah, before there was hardly anything around here, it was one of the first structures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang, now I'm in the mood to go ghost hunting.
Yeah. What else do we have coming up? Anything at the Steel Museum?
Not that I'm aware.
Now, are they doing anything when you do the New Year's and what's that thing? First night.
First
Youngstown?
night, yeah.
Are they participating in anything? Do you know?
They
The Steel
do.
Museum?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think they usually are on the
They
list.
do
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
I think last year nothing really happened because of COVID.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
Trying to think year before. But yeah, they usually participate. Yeah.
And I think the Arms Museum is having its Christmas
Yeah, that's a big thing for
display.
them.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah. Yeah, that's gorgeous in the Arms Museum.
I've never seen it.
Oh, it's worth
It's
going. Yeah.
amazing. It really is amazing.
Did they have it last year with COVID?
I
or?
don't think they did do it last
Okay,
year. Yeah.
I'll have to go this year.
Yeah, so everything's come
The
back.
collection is, it's crazy.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I've seen some of those up in the attic,
Mhm.
some of the decorations. So
Okay, so we started talking about the Historical Society. So yeah, we got Mahoning Valley Historical Society in Mahoning County. Then in Trumbull, there's the Trumbull Historical Society. And, there's always been that division between Mahoning County and Trumbull County. Warren's way up there and we're in Youngstown. But really, it's not that far overall. We're connected.
Right.
And actually, doing this whole Mohoning Movement project really has helped me think more of a Mahoning Valley identity. Rather, I've always had a Youngstown identity, but now kind of seeing how it all fits together. But no, we're family.
Heck yeah.
Trumbull County too, and our ancestors grew up in Niles.
Right?
okay,
Yeah, so
So we got to be good with Trumbull County.
yeah, Trumbull County's all right. At Modern Methods, actually, I originally met what's her name? Megan from the Trumbull County Historical Society.
oh yeah, Megan Reed, is that her name?
Yeah, it is Megan.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's really cool. And she attended the first architecture class with us.
Okay.
And yeah, they're doing great work up there. I think they just got another house that they're gonna restore up there.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So yeah, luckily we got those organizations. And I was surprised how old MVHS is. It was 1860s or something that was founded.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so
I think it's good to have though in the area.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's cool to think that far long ago in history they were thinking historically as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a good thing they're still at it, preserving spaces. Which when you make sure no more buildings are torn down downtown Youngstown. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, what
Yeah.
else do we need to cover today?
I mean, I'm good for whatever.
Well, we're going to Champion next week in the architecture class.
I wonder what we're gonna see up there. Did they give us did they tell us what we're seeing yet? Or
No, not yet. We'll
Okay.
see. But yeah, so last week we didn't have a guest, so Joe and I just talked the whole session about how we need to save like the humanities at YSU, and now YSU announced about like they're like
Yeah.
$6 million in the hole, and seems like always the humanities and the arts are always
Always
the
the
first on the
first,
cutting.
yep.
Exactly, yeah.
What was the Northeast Ohio or Northern Ohio Masters of Fine Arts program? Is that what it's called? They're
Are
thinking
they
about
cutting that too?
yeah.
Oh, is that the long term for the English? Yeah, I just knew it as the English
Yeah.
masters. Yeah, they're talking about getting rid of that.
That's a shame.
Yeah, American Studies. I'm going to be with a. So you're actually a history
Yeah.
graduate student. I meant technically in American Studies. They're cutting that program, so we'll just be history then, I guess. So yeah, it's a shame. Like we're literally talking about the fabric of our community, talking about these historic structures and stuff. You know, you need to have institutional support, teaching
sure.
people. You know, the experience that we got both working in the Steel Museum and you work in MVHS too. Like, I mean, it's being able to be students and having that as a resource is like it's
Yeah.
invaluable, not just for our education, but also for the whole community.
Yeah, for sure. And it's terrible. I know the enrollment has gone down, but I mean, I don't think it's necessary to cut back on these programs because enrollment has gone down. I think what you need to do with that is try to figure out, okay, how do we keep enrollment going? How do we keep these programs, around? How do we gain attention?
Mm-hmm. That's what I was even thinking, like, what can we do more in the Youngstown school system to like show the humanities as a career path, and also just, I mean, I think one, it starts with passion, that, finding thing, like I became passionate about history as a kid, actually partly because of ghost hunters. Like even as a little kid, I was like into ghosts. I never really, experienced anything, but I think ghost stories are an interesting way to be introduced to history. And I love Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and there's all kinds of like ghost stories, but you learn about history in a way, you learn the true story, and then whether or not they're actually haunting the space, that's another matter, but you learn about these people. And I think it's a great way to introduce kids to it. So yeah, like what can be done more in the Youngstown school system to get kids passionate about the humanities and in general, but everything's all STEM these days, which sure you need it, you need the STEM, but you also need more than that.
Yeah, history is just as important.
Yeah.
And
I think it's interesting too, like where it all overlaps. Like I'm going crazy right now taking this whole map class of ArcGIS and the smart maps. I'm really into it, but it's like taking a science class, so it's like driving me crazy too.
Yeah.
But finding like where the two cross over, and even historic buildings, you need to know about engineering and architecture with that too.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
I've learned a lot just directly with my building in the past couple of years and looking at other buildings too. So yeah, don't get rid of the humanities. Kind of, if STEM's where all the money is at, let's get some of that STEM money into them too.
Yeah.
That's our commercial for the applied history program and the humanities at YSU. So,
yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show today.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, looking forward to getting through the rest of this semester. And,
me too.
Yeah, and when you graduate in the spring, or
May.
Yeah, me too. So yeah. Hopefully.
So week 9, and then we have 6 weeks left this semester, and then 16 weeks. So we're almost there.
Yeah. Yep, in the home stretch now. So, but yeah, it's been a great experience being at YSU.
Yeah.
And what we first had the applied history class with Dr. Leary in the fall of
2020. Yeah.
Yeah, 2020. Yeah, my first semester back at YSU after like a 15-year absence. After getting my bachelor's degree, and I'm really lucky to have fallen into that program, kind of, and it's great just being at the Steel Museum. Like I've, there's good resources up at like DeBartolo building on campus, but I like being out of the classroom and actually in the Steel Museum. So it's cool to have classes in there. So yeah, if anybody out there is watching, looking for something to do in life, enroll in YSU. Spring's gonna be the last semester you could have Dr. Leary as a professor, because he's retiring after that.
Yeah.
And who knows what's gonna happen with the whole program after that. So hopefully some people enroll and they get the numbers. I mean, it makes sense from a university perspective. Yeah, you got to have the numbers, but like I said, the value goes beyond that as well, and for the long run, they got to preserve it, because you never know, you're going to need it someday.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Till next week.
Till next week. Well, that went well.